Welcome back in. He is famous for making millions of people laugh, but Birmingham native Rickey Smiley has also dealt with extreme sorrow and heartache. He hopes the way he's pushed through that will help you and others. It's all laid out in his new book, Sideshow, Living with Loss and Moving Forward with Faith. Birmingham's own Rickey Smiley joins us now to share more. It's just great to have you in.
Thank you for having me,
Thank you so much.
Yes, sir.
I do want to start, for those who are not familiar with your son, Brandon. He died in January of last year, found unconscious in his apartment here in Birmingham, your hometown. Obviously, a parent should never have to bury their child, no matter what age.
Yeah.
And I know you relied on your faith, but in your lowest of lowest moments, how did you navigate that? And what was it like when you got that call?
It was devastating. I was at my apartment in Dallas, Texas, because I worked there sometimes, and I was by myself. I had to figure out how to get to the airport, how to get on the plane, how to get home to my family. I just had to navigate that. That was hard. I had to totally lean on God. Everything that you was taught in Sunday school, everything that you was taught growing up as a child, every poem that you had to learn, Invictus and See It Through and If and everything, you had to take all of those tools and use it just to make it through, because that was a terrible time.
Yeah, I can't imagine. You're on that plane ride. You
Yes,
know
sir.
you're going home. There's total strangers around you. They have no idea what you're going
No idea.
through. What are your thoughts? What's running through your mind?
Well, God sent angels. It was a gentleman sitting behind me coming from a family reunion and was showing me pictures of his family reunion that he hadn't been with his brothers in years. And I just smiled and went through his phone with the other side of my brain, with the wheels were really spinning. And I was just being nice to him. And this man was excited to be sitting by me on the plane. And I think that was God keeping my mind occupied so I wouldn't go crazy and to stay calm. And I didn't want to ruin the trip for him. And sometimes you have to think about other people. Sometimes it's bigger than you,
right,
or whatever. And the man never knew until at the very end when I was getting off the plane. I whispered in his ear what happened. And that's what I talk about in the book, Glimmers of Hope, how God just sent angels. I had somebody pray with me before I got on the plane.
Wow.
Then the front seat was available, where I usually, like to sit when I'm on Southwest, that very front, where I could just jump off.
Right.
So God just kind of lined everything up, and I was trying to lean on God when I realized that God was actually carrying me, because I was just weak and I couldn't think straight. I couldn't find my gate. A police officer escorted me to the gate, because I was confused. I was sad. I wanted to die. And so it was a terrible time, but God allowed me to get through it. So it's a lot. It's scripture based.
Yes.
It tells the story. It talks about the glimmers of hope,
yeah,
and the angels that God put around you, and it promotes therapy, us going to get help.
Which is so important.
Because yes, sir. Because us men,
and we were talking about it in the green room. We process things differently sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah, men, we don't go and get the help that we need. We'll go to the doctor if we roll our ankle, but we won't go to the doctor, if we go through trauma.
Right.
And the brain is a muscle, just like the ankle. And we have to go and get help from a professional therapist to help us process those feelings. And so I just thank God. I'm still in therapy. I got more therapy to do after the book tour. So it's a lot.
Well, I think it's refreshing for you to share that openly with people, because we do know how important it is. And you obviously had to relive those emotions through this book, especially the audio version of this.
Yes.
What was that like? Because there are a lot of parents who have lost children, unfortunately, to violence, who have to do that same thing when they go through court cases.
Yes. Yeah, you have to do it for them, because sometimes things become a blessing in disguise, right? My son was 32, but there's a 15-year-old. Every day on the news, child get killed, then they have to go to court. The insults to the injury, the child dying is already an injury, but the insult to the injury, you got to deal with the child's murderer and his family, and go to court, and go to a morgue, and identify a body, all of that. God protected us from that. We didn't have to go through that. So these are the little things that we look at and we see it as a blessing, because our situation could have been worse. So we write the book, for all of the people, all of the families that's grief-stricken, that's going through things, because I'm a public figure. I have a national radio show, national known stand-up comic. People are concerned, so you use this to try to help other people, because it's not about you.
You jumped right back into work, though, too.
You have to. The bills don't stop coming. You have to go back to work, because we have to realize we have to do what our loved ones would want us to do, right? You say you lost your dad.
Right.
When your dad died, do your dad want you to stay at home and think about all this? Do he want you to go on and live your best life that he trained you and I and prepared us to do? Like my grandfather,
Right.
you know, we trained for the job or whatever. That's us being men. But still go and get grief counseling and get the help that you need in order to process those feelings, so you won't take it out and pass anything bad on to the next generation or hurt everybody that's around you.
You know, it's great to hear your daughter is doing well. I think
Yes.
living in the Rocky Mountain area now. Got her master's, right?
Yes, sir.
She, for folks who don't know, she was a victim, an innocent bystander in a shooting in the Houston area. Thankfully survived that. So that was very traumatic as well.
It was.
But it's part of a story that you had mentioned, you touched on, we see in a lot of our cities in America today. What pains you? What gives you heartache when you see what's happening in our city, your hometown, and the city of Houston you live in, and what your daughter had to experience?
I'm a gunshot victim. I don't know if you remember. I got shot back in the night they found Nicole Brown Simpson and Ron Goldman. I was shot that night. My daughter was shot. You know, we are gunshot victims, and it's really, really sad that you can't go to the fair, you can't go to a football game, you can't go anywhere, and everybody's just out doing whatever they want to do. And like my pastor at my home church said, charity starts at home, and we got to get back to the basics. We got to get back to the basic discipline, home training, structure. Yes, ma'am. No, ma'am. Thank you, please. Athletics, sports. It's coaches and teachers and people out here trying to do the best that they can. And but we need the support of the parents, and charity starts at home.
I want my producer to know my IFB went out, my little earpiece, power went out, so he's probably yelling at me to wrap. Real quickly, the first book signing that you're in town for, that one sold out, okay, but there's another one happening in October 5th there at the Books A Million place in Trustville. Real quickly, just if you could wrap up, you've talked about it already, but what do you hope people take away from this book that I know is already resonating across the country?
Yeah, I just hope that this book gives you tools that you need in order to get through your grief process, and encourage everybody to get closer to God and go and get the therapy and the help that you need.
God bless you.
Yes, sir. Thank you
so much.
Thank you for having me.
Rickey Smiley.